Greetings, fellow Americans. Sebastian Gorka here with my new book, Why We Fight, Defeating America's Enemies with No Apologies. Now, they've given me a kind of script thing, some talking points here, and it says at the beginning, welcome everybody. Hola, ciao, salut, ni hao. I don't think I'm going to stick to the script. Anyway, I'm here with Casey Santarpia, the publicist par excellence from Regnery, the publisher par excellence, and she's going to hold my hand while we do this, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Let me talk a little bit about the book, and then you can tell everybody what we're going to do for premiercollectibles.com. If you don't have a chance to get your book signed today, go to premiercollectibles.com/Gorka. That's Gorka. For some reason, people love signed books. It's selfies and signed books. I don't know what you do with all those selfies. I don't know how many thousands I've actually participated in, but for some reason you love the selfies and you love the signed books, so that's why I'm here today.
But you like the selfies, and you like signing books too.
I like doing the selfies for other people because my logic is, what does it cost me?
Nothing.
Nothing, and people love it, so make people happy. Let's say a little bit about this book. So my first book with Regnery was Defeating Jihad 2 years ago. It was my game plan for how we defeat groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Became a New York Times bestseller. We don't talk about the New York Times, but it became a national bestseller.
Yes.
And now this is my second book after leaving the White House. I served as deputy assistant and strategist to Donald J. Trump. Still stay in touch with him, still supporting the MAGA, the Make America Great Again agenda from the outside. And this is not just about terrorism. This is the big overview of all the threats we face and what Donald Trump is going to do to defeat them. From ISIS to Russia to China to Iran, you name it. What to do about them and the threat they represent. And then, just to make it, not too technical and too dry, because everybody loves a good story, I've put in 4, I call them vignettes, 4 narratives, 4 stories about great American heroes who some of you may not have heard of. Go back 200 years to the youngest ever naval captain, Stephen Decatur, who led a covert Marine Corps operation against our first jihadi enemies on the shores of Tripoli, taking back the USS Philadelphia from the Barbary pirates. Then a Marine Corps legend, a story from World War II, that's Chesty Puller, General Chesty Puller. Then an incredible story. I met this man, a survivor of the Hanoi Hilton, a prisoner of war, a US naval aviator, spent 6.5 years in the Hanoi Hilton, never lost his faith in Jesus, never deserted the American cause, the American dream. That's Captain Eugene Red McDaniel. And then lastly, maybe we'll have time to talk about this later, a story that all Americans should know, and that's Whittaker Chambers, the man who was Kavanaugh'd before Justice Kavanaugh was even born, a man who was slandered by the left, by the mainstream media in 1948 when he stood up for the truth in Congress, a man who never gave in, never surrendered. So if you think what they did to Judge Kavanaugh is new, you should open a history book, or you should buy this and get it signed by me. So have I forgotten anything, Casey?
No, you sound good. Are you ready to...
Yeah, I suppose I should sign some books.
You should start signing books.
Some books,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, you're going to start doing that.
And then you're going to ask me some of the questions that people are sending in. All right, so...
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so... Agnes, a fan from Rick.
So am I signing 2 people or just sign? Okay, good.
Yes.
And then we'll get it all sorted.
Yes.
All right. So Agnes, what do you want to know?
Agnes, what more can I do for my country as a legal immigrant or illegal immigrant and angel mom?
An angel mom. Oh my gosh, I know who this is. Wow. God bless you. Good to hear from you, Agnes. It's very simple. Go out and don't get all preachy. You don't have to get on a soapbox. But ask people who are undecided. I know there are a lot of people out there who, I don't like his tweets. I don't like what he says on social media. It doesn't matter. It's Twitter. What are you talking about? How about the last 2 years? Ask the people who are undecided, not sure about November. What do you think about the last 2 years? What do you think about defeating ISIS? What do you think about the economy? What do you think about your 401k? How do you like the fact that we have the lowest unemployment for African Americans, for Hispanics in America since record keeping began? What do you think of the 4.2% GDP growth rate? And just forget politics. America is economically the strongest, the most powerful it has ever been, even more than the Reagan years. So ask those people, how do you like the last 2 years? And if you like it, you're going to want 6 more years. So get out and vote. Vote Republican, down the ticket in November, and get other people to vote, because it's that important. Safety and prosperity. That's what Donald Trump is about for all of us.
Yes. So next question, we've got Daniel from Bakersfield, California. He wants to know, when you say with no apologies at the end of your book title, were you referring to Trump or Obama?
I think that's a trick question. The subtitle, the subheading, was actually from my publisher's Regnery. Thank you, Margie. I hope you're watching in your office, Margie. We had a different subheading, but I love it. And it was meant on purpose to juxtapose this, why we fight and why we're winning, with the previous 8 years before President Trump and President Obama's attitude to the world. Because remember, how did he start his administration? The apology tour, right? He traveled the world apologizing for America and for who we are. And we don't do that in the Trump administration. I didn't do that when I was his strategist. The president's never going to do it. So no apologies for who we are. We are proud of our Judeo-Christian heritage. We are proud of what we stand for as a nation. So defeating America's enemies with no apologies. Thank you, Margie.
So how long have you been working on the book? It's a good book-related
Good question.
How
Yeah,
long?
getting a little technical. So I actually wrote this book before I went into the White House. It was ready to roll, but then when I was in the White House, I wasn't allowed to touch it. The president's very strict about these things, not allowed to do anything external to your government duties, which is absolutely right. It was a little bit different under Obama, and especially in Hillary's State Department. So I had to leave it aside, and then came back when I resigned my commission from the White House. I went back to the book, edited it, had a look at it, and then added just a chapter about how I got to the White House. A lot of people will not want to know that personal story. So the beginning of it is about my father, his experiences under fascism and under communism, being arrested and tortured by the secret police. Then I do the analysis of the threats, the stories of great American heroes, and then I close it with the details of how a guy with a funny accent from West London ended up in the West Wing. Great question.
So, speaking of the West Wing,
yes.
Danielle from Massachusetts wants to know, what was the best part about working in the White House?
I tell you, it was every single day, because I write it in the book on January the 21st. I don't drink. I haven't drunk since my parents died. So I didn't, I was ready to go. Saturday morning, January 21st, start working. I didn't have a hangover. So I went to the White House, got my blue badge, picked out my office, and then there it is, 8 a.m. Saturday morning after the inauguration, and I, an immigrant, only naturalized 5 years ago, am walking around the West Wing. Only in America, dear viewers, dear readers, only in America. So I pinched myself every day that in this land of opportunity, anything, literally anything is possible.
What is one fact about yourself that might surprise people?
Just one?
Yes, just one. For time purposes, we'll keep it
It will
at
shock you, but I love a good musical. I have been called the scariest man on television, but whenever I am in the Big Apple, I love to catch a show. I grew up on, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Cats, Evita, all that stuff, so love a good musical. I know you're shocked, but hey, that's who I am.
No one asked this, but do you have a favorite musical? I want to know, do you have a favorite musical?
Oh my gosh, that is a tough one. If I had to pick one, what would it be? Guys and Dolls. Guys and Dolls.
Wow, I did not see
Luck
that
be
one
a lady.
coming.
I mean, come on, luck be a lady.
All right, so back to questions about the book.
Yes.
What do you hope readers get out of Why We Fight?
I have written this book for anybody. Anybody can absorb this book. It's not technical, it's not dry, it's not full of footnotes. Millennials can read it, retirees can read it. So you'll learn a lot. You'll learn about our enemies and what they're doing to undermine us. But I want you to walk away from this with one thing, and it's what Ronald Reagan taught us. It's that we need to be happy warriors. The left has, you've seen it in the insanity of the last month with the Kavanaugh hearings. The fuel of the left is hatred. They live on bile, and they've allowed themselves to become insane with it. Look at the video of what they did, where was it, in Oregon at the weekend. Look at the video of them literally clawing at the bronze doors of the Supreme Court last weekend. So I want you to take away one thing from this book. The left has been overtaken by the radicals. Their fuel is hatred. Our fuel, conservatives, Republicans, classic liberals, our fuel is love. Love of the Republic, and you should be, as Reagan taught us, a happy warrior and never give up. Have faith in our founding principles, have faith in Donald J. Trump, and never give up.
Good answer. So,
great questions. Thank you,
right,
guys.
I know. These are good questions. So Kurt from Pennsylvania wants to know, a very timely question.
Yeah.
How do we rein in the crazy left mob mentality?
Well, they said, the left said, Michelle said, when they go low, we go high, right? Did you hear what Eric Holder said yesterday? He said, no, Michelle's wrong. Obama's former AG, Attorney General, the only Attorney General in U.S. history to be held in contempt of Congress, said, no, Michelle's wrong. When they go low, we go lower. That's the left. Don't give in to them. What do? Stick to the truth. We believe in objective truth. We believe that all men are made equal, and don't fall into their trap. What do they do with Americans? They divide us into categories: skin color, gender, sexual preference, socioeconomic class, immigrant background. You know what I see in America? I see Americans. And that's what conservatives do. We look at each other as fellow Americans. Stick to the truth. Don't let them grind you down. And most important of all, this is a message I give everywhere I talk. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how technologically, cack-handed you may be. Get on social media. If you don't have a Twitter or Facebook account, you are part of the problem, because you have to be reinforcing the truth. There's a reason somebody corrected me today. The president has 54 million Twitter followers. There's a reason for that. Why? Because he's pushing back on the fake news, and you should too. Repost the president. Put your own posts in there. Talk about how the last 2 years have changed your life for the better. So be active on social media and push back on the lies.
And we have another question. This is good. I know you touch on this in the book. They want to know, where do you get your news?
Oh, yeah. I have
you
a whole...
just talked about social media,
right,
but where do you get your news other than social media?
I have a whole appendix which is about how you stay informed, how you really stay on the cutting edge of things. I don't read newspapers. Newspapers are garbage. With the odd exception of maybe the Washington Times, not the Post, it's all garbage. I am a radio junkie. As a kid in London, I had one of those cheesy little transistor radios under my pillow. I'm a night person. I used to stay up till 1, 2 a.m. as a kid listening to talk radio. I love talk radio. I love to drive. So I'm always listening to radio during the day. Then podcasts, love podcasts. So radio, who's out there? The guys of the Salem Network, Dennis Prager, Mike Gallagher, Larry Elder, Hugh Hewitt, superb names. My friends from DC have an amazing morning show, amazing afternoon show. That's Chris Plant in the morning, keeps me sane. Larry O'Connor in the afternoon. You can listen to all of these free online, and then you can download the podcasts. Then now in the age of the internet and YouTube, amazing additional video podcasts. Love Andrew Klavan, Stephen Crowder, hilarious. Then we have Michael Knowles. Of course, the man of the moment, Ben Shapiro. These are sources of information, and then good websites. So of course, Breitbart. There, I said it. Breitbart, Daily Caller, the Daily Wire, the Federalist, and then follow great writers. There are very few true investigative journalists out there, but there are some. So my colleague at Fox, Sarah Carter, you've got to watch Sean Hannity every night, Tucker every night, the great people on Fox Business, Lou Dobbs, Trish Reagan, Maria Bartiromo, who else is there? Kennedy, of course. So that's the TV if you're into TV. And then otherwise, the great websites I've mentioned. Oh, and individuals like Sarah Carter, like Lee Smith, Molly Hemingway, the few people that are prepared to talk the truth about what's going on. And I think that's enough for now. That should get you started.
Yeah.
That should get you started.
They got a long list, tall list.
But it's in the book. Read the book.
Yes.
It's in the appendix.
Yes. All right, so we've got Anne from Virginia.
Uh-huh.
You talk a lot about heroes in the book who believed
Yes.
in America and put everything on the line for her. Which one do you find the most inspiring?
Wow, great question. My dad.
Good answer.
I'll tell you a story. It's in the book. My father, when I lived in the UK, my parents escaped communist Hungary. My father escaped a communist political prison. And they got out of the country, crossed the minefield, became refugees, and ended up in England. And I was born and raised in the UK to Hungarian parents. And we lived in England, but every summer we'd go to France for holidays. And my father was an amazing athlete. He loved to swim. And I remember to this very day, he was coming out of the sea one day at a beach in France. And I recognized something for the first time. I saw on his wrists these faint white lines. And he was too young to have wrinkles. And I said, "Hey, Dad, what's that?" And he said to me, "That's where my torturers tied my hands together with wire behind my back and then hanged me from the ceiling." That's what the communists did to my father before they gave him a life sentence at the age of 20. So I had a real hero to look up to, and that was my father, Paul Gorka, and his story is the first chapter in the book.
Great. So, this is from Janet in Starkville, Mississippi. Dr. Gorka, my son is in law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
And I want to know how I can help get the president to push harder and stop these assaults on our officers. What can Janet do?
Wow, that's a great question. I'm not repeating myself, but it's the same answer. Social media. Get out there, organize your friends, the other Leo families. God bless your son. God bless all the people that wear a uniform, whether it's EMTs, Leo, law enforcement officers, our military, you name it. They are the front line. They keep us safe every day, ICE included. Are you listening, Miss Ocasio-Cortez? ICE included. And why don't you organize the families, your fellow Leo families, and create a Facebook page about what the law enforcement community does for America. And just put a post up there, maybe just one every couple of days, and then push the issue that similar websites or similar Facebook pages are doing online. And I can assure you, it's Janet, right?
Yes.
You will have a positive effect on this community, because now we have a commander-in-chief who loves your son. I've seen it. We get off Air Force One, wherever we are, and there were no cameras anywhere. And the president, before he got in the motorcade, before he got in the Beast, he would come down and individually shake the hand of every police officer in the Outrider team. Wherever we were, if there was a police officer on a motorbike there to help us, he would say hello. That's how much he cares. Those are the kind of stories that you could help get out there. Thanks, Janet.
So we have Tom from Orlando. He wants to know, how did you get started? You know, all of a sudden you were on the scene.
Yeah.
You were the big guy. How did that all begin?
So I mucked around in things military and national security when I was in college. On a bet, on a dare, I joined the intelligence corps, the military intelligence part of the British Army as a reservist. So I did that in college as a long-haired philosophy and theology student. Had to get my hair cut. So I messed around in the military. Then I studied terrorism, went to Harvard as a fellow, worked on national security issues at RAND in DC after that. And then after 9/11, met this amazing Marine Corps legend, Colonel Nick Pratt, a former CIA paramilitary, who invited me to become a professor on a brand new program he was creating called the Program on Terrorism and Security Studies, training counterterrorism professionals from around the world to create an international community to defeat Al-Qaeda. Did that for 4 years, met an American, married an American, came to the United States, started teaching, thanks to the good Lord, at the National Defense University, the highest university in the military system in the United States, taught the master's program in counterterrorism and irregular warfare. Ended up at the Marine Corps University in Quantico as a professor there. And then the summer of 2015, a guy called Corey Lewandowski calls me up at Quantico. Didn't know who he was. And he said, candidate Trump is a big debate this fall on national security, and we need somebody to help him get ready. Would you be willing to be an advisor? And I met Mr. Trump, then Mr. Trump, in Trump Tower. Had an amazing conversation. Halfway through, he does a classic Donald. He stopped the conversation, looked at Corey and said, I like this guy. Let's hire him. That's the decisiveness of our president from Queens. So I started advising him in 15, eventually joined the transition team prior to the election, and then was sworn in. It's called a politically commissioned officer. Became a politically commissioned officer of the president on January the 20th, 2016, and now I've written a book. This is the last one I have to sign right now. So, what are we going to do now?
Okay, so we've got some fun questions for you. You got to answer these fast, okay?
I've got to do this in what, 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, so, where were you born?
London.
Who would you want to play you in a movie?
It has been said that I bear a slight resemblance to Russell Crowe. So Russell Crowe, if it was the gladiator Russell Crowe, he's let himself go a little bit since then, but I think Russell Crowe could do it if he had heels on. A little bit of lifts, platforms.
What was your first job?
First job was a security guard at Harrods.
All right. What is your biggest fear?
My biggest fear? What is my biggest fear? That I'm not General Jim Mattis. How's that?
Good answer. Who makes you laugh the most?
Oh, I love Laurel and Hardy. Jim Gaffigan is great, but I love the classic black and white comedians. Harold Lloyd, Laurel and Hardy, still the best.
What is the one thing you need to have?
Oh, and sorry. These are fast. Oh, fast, sorry. Last Man Standing is great. Last Man Standing.
Okay. What is the one thing you need to have in your fridge at all times?
Cranberry juice. Love cranberry juice. And it's good for you.
What is your greatest accomplishment?
Oh, Deputy Assistant to the President.
Who is the most interesting person you met recently?
Most interesting person I met? Kaya Jones of the Pussycat Dolls.
What is your middle name?
Lukács in Hungarian. Luke.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
My pet peeve? People who think that you have all the time in the world and cannot ask quick questions, especially when you're hosting a radio show.
What is the last book you read?
I read about 20 books at the same time, but the last book is Victor Hansen's new book, The Second World Wars, and that's the title, Wars.
Favorite hobby?
Shooting. I love to shoot, love my guns.
Guilty pleasure?
Chocolate, love, milk, not dark, can't do that dark thing, milk chocolate.
Hidden talents?
Hidden talents. I have been known to sing now and again. Rarely in public, but now and again on my radio shows, or when I cover.
Wow, can't wait to hear that. Color of your toothbrush?
At the moment, it is dark blue. Why would you care? But it is.
What is your secret snack?
Marmite chips. Crisps, as we call them. Some people hate Marmite. I love Marmite crisps.
How do you take your coffee?
I don't like coffee as a rule, but when I do drink it, I drink Turkish coffee, black.
What is the last movie you saw in theaters?
Last movie in theaters, Solo. And Solo.
What is the last gift you gave?
The last gift I gave. Oh, a book on the Roman army for my son who just started college and loves Imperial Rome.
What cause is dear to your heart?
The plight of Christians in the Middle East.
What is number one on your bucket list?
Wow. Don't tell my wife. Jumping out of a plane with a parachute.
Ooh.
Anybody can sort that out?
What, are you going to do that anytime soon?
I might. If I can get away from surveillance, I might do it.
Okay. Where do you want to go that not... Bleh. Ooh, words. Where do you want to go that you've never been before?
Well, I wanted to go to Japan for the longest time. I did that with the Marine Corps. So India. Love to go to India.
Great. Well, that wraps us up. Can you tell everyone, if they haven't gotten a book, where they could get a book?
Right. So Why We Fight, Defeating America's Enemies with No Apologies, at Amazon.com right now. You can get the audiobook. I read the audiobook. It is my voice, so check it out. If you want it signed, I know you love it signed, premiercollectibles.com/Gorka. And please follow me on social media. Twitter, my handle is at Seb Gorka, SEBGORKA. I'm on Facebook as well, Sebastian Gorka. And don't forget, the amazing people at Regnery. Good books come from Regnery. Good signed books come from Premier Collectibles.